Hi everyone and welcome to my Earthspike Druid guide. This is a pretty fun and pretty powerful build that you can try on the Druid right now. I had a ton of fun of this. I already made a guide about Pulverize early in the season, which is definitely the uncontested best Druid build out there right now. But Earthspike is also quite up there. As you can see, I'm cruising through those 85s here right now. No problem. This build has pushed beyond Pit 100. And even hardcore, this is a very comfy build. It's pretty tanky thanks to being in bear and having a lot of these bear synergies. And just a fun alternative if you want to try something new. So I want to show you what it is all about. The core of the build is just spam Earthspike. This is a basic skill. You can unlock it at level 1. There is an aspect for it which is called Seismic Shift, which gives you a line of Earth Spikes and then doubles that. So you have two of those lines extending outwards and giving you a lot of RE coverage. So you can actually hit almost to the edge of the screen, and you can kind of clean enemy packs pretty well with this because they also have a bit of a width. And on top of that, we also have the Pain-Gorger's Gauntlets. So we can spread that to the debuff with, for example, the Rabid Bear aspect. So Rabies just kind of spread everywhere passively, apply Pain-Gorger's debuff, and like this you have even more AoE coverage as well. So you can't go like super fast because you don't have mobility skills. We don't have really a good way to include something like a Jar rune, although you could try for easier content in Torment 4. But as you see here, we're kind of just cleaning up packs pretty nicely anyway, and there's a lot of power behind this build. So Torment 4 lair bosses melt in seconds. As I mentioned, Pit 100 plus, very doable, and it's just kind of like a really fun new big thing to try. So let's jump into it. So here's my setup. I cooked this up and played it exactly as it is. I have a few different variants here. So there's Ancestral and there's Mythic. The only change really is the Shroud of False Death. It's just like a really powerful Mythic item that you want to include in here. There are also other variations where maybe you can run with a Star Disguise because we actually spend resources with our basic attack thanks to Shroud of Erathiel. So that is an option, but you would have to leave out one of the other aspects or potentially the Pain-Gorgers here in order to fit that in. And other than that, yeah, we have a few uniques here that are kind of important. So I based this build around Bestial Rampage. So we have a pretty strong damage buff and extra attack speed here. And we juiced this up with the Wild Heart Hunger. So you can get a 50% roll, and this makes the damage buff of the key passive a 90% damage boost and an 80% cap 2 attack speed boost. And to get out the boots, you are basically capped on cap 2, and then you can just stack a bunch of other attack speed for cap 1 on your build. So like this, you have very high attack speed, you trigger all your stuff frequently, you have relatively good coverage, and get a bunch of other perks. But this is also based on Grizzly Rage, as many other Druid builds are right now. Grizzly Rage is a very powerful multiplier, and it makes it so that you can only use the bear skills while transformed, and you try to keep this up permanently. So you see here, for example, we have Cyclone Armor on the bar and we have Claw on the bar. So these two skills will disappear from your bar, and then you will only have those bear skills and the Earth Spike. And for that, we have to use the Validity's Prayer. So this makes your Earth skill into a bear skill and allows it to be used while in Grizzly Rage. And you can also benefit from a bunch of other benefits on your paragons and your skill tree, for example. And in order to make this Bestial Rampage and Wild Heart Hunger combo work together with the Grizzly Rage, where we can't shift in and out of the form all the time, which is required for the boots to work, we can use the rune combo Seer Q. So this gives you the Earthen Bulwark every few seconds. And this actually counts as shifting for the purpose of stacking the buff of those boots. So effectively at the start of the run, you try to get this bonus maxed out really fast with just shifting back and forth with Claw and Earth Spike. You just do left click, right click a few times. This also gives you the quick shift buff, so you kind of want to do this 6 times anyway for this purpose. And at the same time you stack Wild Heart Hunger. And then you activate Grizzly Rage, and you're going to be in Grizzly Rage for the rest of the run. At least when you're doing speed runs in the pit or whatever, you have a pretty long timer here, and it's very easy to stay in there as long as you're not pushing like a 15-minute pit run or something like that. On the boss, you also have permanent Grizzly Rage anyway, because every time you overpower, you get a +5 seconds. Every time you kill a target, you get +1 second. So as long as you kind of keep going, keep moving forward, you'll always stick in Grizzly Rage form. But it is also easy to reset because we have Hectic. So if you ever run out of Grizzly Rage and accidentally drop the buff or something like that, I have this aspect here, and this just gives us lots of cooldown reduction, so you can just spam your Earth Spikes for a few seconds and you get it back. Otherwise, right now at least, the way this works is that Grizzly Rage stays on your bar, and you can actually press it again when it's about to run out, and then you can just continue the buff and you don't actually drop the form. One thing to note here about the Shard of Arathiel is it makes your Earth Spike cost 25 resource, so this is quite a lot, and it actually doesn't generate that much. You see here it generates 16, so there are 2 ways around that are pretty good, or 3 ways even. So the way that I chose is the Reactive Ooze Season Power. You get 20% maximum resource per second. You just need to activate your catalytic skill, which happens to be our Earth Spike anyway. So you very easily just sustain it that way. But if you are fiddling with your season setup, for example, then maybe you can do other measures as well. So there is, for example, a passive here where you get more resources from your basic skills. So this is one way to do it. You can just generate more than you spend. You can do a Starter Skies as well, as I mentioned earlier. And you can also do a Lum Rune. So if that is like, you know, the last resort, basically, if you have so much resource trouble, then you can also do this. For the rest of our aspects here, we have adaptability. So we get an extra basic skill buff based on our maximum resource, which we get a little bit here from the Shard. And I think Paragon has a little bit. And also the offhand. So in this setup here, for example, we have 185 maximum spirit. That's kind of nice. You can also get a few more points here if you have leftovers, but realistically they don't do that much. But this gives you a pretty big boost here on the neck. Then you have the Seismic Shift. This is required for the build, for the lines of the Earth Spikes. We have the Rampaging Werebeast. This is very powerful, basically double damage if you have 100% crit chance, which is our goal. And you also have a longer duration of Grizzly Rage, so this allows you to just more easily stay inside. And we have the Rabid Bear, so this converts all of your damage to poison, so your physical Earth Spike damage is no longer physical, it is now a poison skill, so you can benefit from various modifiers. For example, we have the gem here as well, the Heraldic Jewel for the 20% elemental damage. And we also spread rabies all the time with the Rabid Bear. And this allows us to benefit easily from stuff like Envenom, for example. For our rune setup, I mentioned the CRQ combo. This is mostly thanks to the Wild Heart Hunger. If you don't run those boots or you don't have them yet, then okay, the bulwarks are nice, but doesn't really matter that much. And instead you can, you know, also do something else here, like a Quax, for example. And I have an Ahuk Sun. So this is very easily kept up. We actually have pretty decent lucky hit here. And like this, you get more overpowers. And yeah, you just get more overpower synergy. And you just deal more damage with that, basically. But you can also replace it with other runes. It's not really required. Stat-wise, we aim for a lot of the skill ranks. So we have Pain Gorgers, for example. Plus 10 basic is possible. You have Earth Spike ranks here on the pants. You want to try to get those. The setup here has 28 ranks. There's also the basic ranks on the Shard. So this is a lot of damage boost here, just having all these ranks. Otherwise, you want to try to hit a lot of attack speed and a lot of crit chance. So we also have the Earth Crit Tempers here, which is not included in your sheet stats. So as you see here right now, this is 70%. But we actually have 1, 2, 3, 4 times like 8 point something. So we actually go over 100% crit chance with this. So you want to try to include that in your calculation and make sure you hit 100% crit chance. There are also other ways to get crit, for example, the Gao rune. You also have the Scythe Talons here if you really have to get this. And you can also use one of the Heraldic Jewels for some extra crit chance. So there's various ways to get to 100%, but you really want to because Druids have very strong crit synergy here. So we have Envenom, as I mentioned, and we also have Avian Wrath on the Spirit Boons. So you really want to crit all the time. And kind of important, we want one roll of the chance to make enemies vulnerable because we have actually pretty big benefits as well. We have, for example, here Natural Disaster, 16% extra damage against vulnerable plus the 20% that is baseline. So you want to try to get this as well. The Paragon looks like this. So we have 4 pretty important multipliers here. We start with Earth and Devastation. This is up to a 60% for your Earth skills. Survival Instinct, since we're in bear form, we get a nice multi there. Heightened Malice, this is against poison enemies, and Ancestral Guidance for spending Spirit, since we do that very easily anyway, just by spamming our basic attack with Shard of Arathiel, we trigger this all the time. And we have a bunch of runes here that are pretty impactful as well. Most importantly, Dominate later, that gives you like this 15% multi and lots of overpower damage. So this is nice, and there's also another reason to overpower all the time. Otherwise, we have Keeper for non-physical damage, Headhunter is just like, you know, straight damage buff and some stats. Earth and Sky, Nature Magic, or Spike is Nature Magic. And Spirit, also a really strong glyph here with up to 15% secondary multi, good legendary bonus, and good primary, so this is also very good. I do have some different Paragon setups here for lower points, so if you're not that high level, then you can check this out as well. And as I mentioned here, for example, if you don't have the Shroud, for example, you can also check this setup here. I have a few notes here about just kind of like the basic points for the build, especially the Q rune and so on. So you can also refer to that. And otherwise, I also recommend check out the Maxor guide. So this setup is a little bit different than mine. So I think Boiler is running user in strength and he's not doing the wild heart hunger boots. But overall, it's kind of the same build. And if you want to dive deeper and maybe see some more of the mechanics and details about the build, you can also check this out here. So this is also a really, really powerful build, maybe even stronger, to be honest. But personally, I had a lot of fun with the way that I played it, with the Wild Heart Hunger Boots and yeah, like all the other stuff that I mentioned here. I gotta say, Earthspike was surprisingly good, surprisingly fun, so I can recommend you guys to try it out. With that, I'm gonna leave you. Hope you enjoyed this guide, and I'll see you guys next time.